Hello, my beautiful peeps. I've already made a few videos on this on my social media, but I thought this game deserves a whole YouTube video because the things that were happening, people are calling for corruption, for the FIFA helping. I just want to state my case, and I'm wearing a Brazil shirt, so you can't say I'm an Argentina fan. Not that it matters because I just got this shirt. I wore it once and I thought it looked good, so it doesn't matter. But I just wanted to talk about it and sh- show you guys why it isn't as corrupt as some may think. And I'm not talking about overall. The overall picture I get that people think it's corrupt and made for Argentina and decisions are going in their favor. But this game especially, I doubt it. And I want to show you because of course Argentina won 3-2. Egypt went ahead in the first half, scoring the 1-0 and done all they could, and they went into the second half with loads of confidence, and they even went 2-0 up. But that's where the fun starts because that's where this happened. As you can see, he stepped on his foot. There's no debate. He stepped on his foot. This is a foul, and in this case I don't really care that it's that early, that it's 2 minutes before the goal even scored. Obviously, that Egypt player, who's a baller by the way, Haitham Hassan, I have an eye on you, but no, the fact this was 2 minutes before, or I don't care, and the fact he had to dribble the whole pitch to even get to the goal. Of course, it is not a direct cause to it being disallowed, but you also gotta think, if this doesn't happen, does the goal happen? Has Hassan got the chance to dribble the whole pitch? Does he get the chance to do that? No, because if he doesn't make this foul, Martinez stays in possession, and Egypt doesn't get hold of the ball, and they can't counter attack. So in the end, and indirectly, it is a foul. And why I actually don't really care if this is a foul or not is because I'm gonna show you this goal. As you can see, got disallowed in the 60th minute. It got disallowed in the 60th minute, but 7 minutes later they scored the 2-0 anyway. So in the end they got their deserved goal, and from there on out it was their responsibility to keep on hold onto the lead. And I was actually thinking they could. They had loads of opportunities, which I'm gonna get into later. I also need to search that up, but that's why I think this doesn't really matter as much anymore, because because they scored the goal anyway. They had, in the end they created their own responsibility. But then the another debate, and that was for this moment. The penalty, the people call this a penalty, but as you can see, first he gets the ball, then Salah just doesn't get past. That was also my first initial thought. It was just a bad dribble from Salah. He just couldn't get past. Well, that happened in the end. Here, as you can see, Salah trips over his foot. He doesn't do really. This player doesn't really do much. He only sets his foot in the way. Doesn't really kick him. Salah proceeds to fall over to trip, and then he doesn't even proceed to ask for a penalty, and people think this is a penalty. Like, guys, I know this was also before the 3-2 even happened, and this let me see, this was another one, which, look, compared to this, look, here there's no ball in play, so this doesn't really have effect on what's next, Look, 90 plus 1, 14. McAllister fouls Hamdi Fati's shirt in the box and brings him down. No VAR. Luke and Enzo scores right after to make it 3-2. But in the end, there's no ball in, there's no way you would have gotten to the ball, I mean, this is difficult. Look, he obviously pushes him away, but where does the ball come from? Yeah, in the end, where he was walking to. Look, in the end, the ball wasn't in possession here. This wasn't a direct cause to potentially stop the counter attack from happening. While here, and I'm not trying to defend it, but here you see this was a direct play to get him out of possession and to start a counter attack. While here there's no real signs of that because he is not in possession, and of course out of possession it's also not, out of possession is also not really acceptable maybe, but the ball is not in possession, he's not the one in possession, so it's not a direct cause to creating the counter attack because the ball was in someone else's feet. I hope you get what I mean, and that maybe is why this didn't get looked at, because the ball wasn't in direct possession by the Egypt player, but by the Argentina player, which from the possession from the Argentina player led to the counter attack, not really McAllister pulling him down. Although it maybe wasn't acceptable, it's not a direct cause to Argentina getting a counter attack, hence why it didn't get looked at. And that's the same argument people are giving for the penalty moment right here. I think, and I saw a video on Instagram from Nico Football Opinions, it was saying I think people are calling this a penalty because they want it, not because they think it was a penalty, but because they wanted it. And I genuinely think this is true, because also from this the counter attack happens and it's a 3-2. But if you really look neutrally, this isn't a penalty. In no way is this a penalty, and in no way, even if the ref looked at it, he wouldn't have called it. And here's a tweet from saying the former Egyptian international referee, Enzo's goal is valid because the Argentine defender released the ball, followed by a natural collision that doesn't warrant review. Like I said, this in no way is this that serious to look back on as a penalty, For me, it's not that serious. And Egypt, may I just say, there are also minute-long clips available of Egypt also not doing even though they got carded, I must admit they got carded, they also weren't too kind. But I saw something else. Yeah. Pierluigi Collina. If the Egypt manager thinks that's a foul, he's got the rules wrong. Salah deserved a yellow for diving. Well, if the probably greatest referee ever says that, I've done my bit. You don't have to listen to me, but at least listen to him. Alright? That's all I'm saying. And look, if it stayed 1-0 and Egypt didn't score that second goal anyway, I would have gotten your point, because in that moment Egypt would have all the right to complain because they didn't look at this moment. Then I would have understood it that because in the overall it's a valid point, they looked at this, but they didn't look at this. While it happened before both goals, and one got disallowed from Egypt and the other one not from Argentina. Overall, I see the point, but with the context that Egypt scored the 2-0 anyway 7 minutes later, it's in their hands. It's their responsibility. I wanted them to create an upset. I wanted them to absolutely do it. But Argentina, as you can see, from the 75th, 79th minute, they just went off. And in special Messi. It was just different class, and Egypt just ruined it for themselves. And I am gonna try and search. Let me just switch the webcam a little, because I'm gonna search the moment Egypt could have easily decided it for themselves. Because people are all blaming it on the ref, on the Argentina, but well, I needed some time to find it, but here it is. But I think what I wanted to get into is how Egypt could have decided for themselves. This is practically a 4v2 because these two Argentina players are behind. So practically this is a 4v2. It was 2-2. Approximately a minute before the goal from Argentina was scored. They could have easily, I think it was Marmoush, he could have easily played this in to this guy. This guy could have went to the far post, he could have laid it off, and boom. This could have been a goal. This should have been a goal for Egypt. It was all in their own hands, and they just ruined it. They just ruined it. And where have the times gone where we just appreciated the game for what it was? I mean, obviously, Argentina overall last two World Cups have been a bit dodgy. I agree. But the way Egypt almost knocked them out. May I add, Egypt haven't won a World Cup game before this World Cup, and they almost knocked out Argentina. They should have just held the lead. I mean, I think people are just desperate for Argentina to fail at this point. You know, again, which I kinda understand, but sometimes you just gotta be man enough to admit it was deserved. In the end, it was deserved. They got it done all by themselves. In the end, it were all goals that were just it were all good goals. I can't really explain, but I find the controversy a little bit over dramatic, and I think people are saying it because of their feelings and not because of their mind. Because if you really think straight, I think you can also realize maybe that Salah penalty was too soft. Maybe that moment for the disallowed goal for Egypt didn't matter as much anymore because Egypt scored right after. You know what I mean? In the end, it all falls back on it doesn't really correlate with each other, you know? So, overall, I get the point, but with the context, knowing Egypt scored their second right after that got disallowed, it's all in their hands, and especially you can also realize this was an opportunity they got. They just ruined it for themselves, and I can't really do much about it. They just should have they should have put the game to bed better. Yeah, I'm, you know, and I'm not the biggest fan of Argentina, and I hoped Egypt would go through. But in the end, they just got it wrong. Like, is this rigged by FIFA? Tell me, is this rigged by FIFA that Egypt didn't play out this opportunity? Like, I know you can have that opinion, and I again understand, but the fact it counts for the most of the things, it doesn't count for all of the things. I mean, for this, this is just their fault. This is just their fault. I'm sorry. This is just their fault. But like I said, we've seen a great game. We've seen a great game of football, and all I hear people talk about is corruption this, corruption that, FIFA this, Messi that. Can we just appreciate greatness? Messi, if we go to the stats of him this World Cup, so let's just go through that. Here, he scored in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 World Cup games in a row. And if you count 2022, it's even more. Can we just appreciate the greatness we're seeing? Can we just appreciate it? Like, I know you can't like the guy. You know, if you're more of a fan of Ronaldo, that's fine. But let's just please not pretend. Okay, alright, sorry, I counted Iceland towards the World Cup games. It's 5. Apologies. But my point still stands. He scored in 5 World Cup games. Like, it's not that difficult, guys. Can we just appreciate greatness when we're seeing it and not blame it on other things around it? Because in the end, Messi has done all this by himself. And of course, in that game against Algeria, he should have gotten a red card. I agree. That was a blatant red card he didn't get. But is it his fault. He then goes on to score a hat trick. I mean, in the end, he scores a hat trick, and of course, that could have been prevented if he got that red card. But if we're talking pure greatness, pure Messi, this is all is a accomplishment. Anyway, so my commiserations to Egypt again. They deserve more, but Argentina, in my opinion, just scroll. Argentina, in my opinion, in the end won deservedly. Deservedly. No, They won fairly. Deserved, not really, because Egypt had all the should have hold on to the lead, but Argentina came back in a miraculous way and won fairly, in my opinion. This time they won fairly. But let's just, while we're at it, let's just look at the World Cup fixtures. And sadly enough, I'm seeing that Argentina Switzerland is at a time I won't be able to watch it. 3 a.m. is just too late. But let's just go through them. First of all, France against Morocco. I just think Morocco have done well. Obviously, also against us, but let's not talk about it. But France, I think they still win comfortably. I mean, Morocco, they have quite struggled against good sides, and I still question their scoring ability, because even against the Netherlands, where we played our worst game in years, they struggled to score a goal, and against Canada, obviously they scored 3, but it's Canada, and Scotland only scored 1. Brazil only scored 1, and it wasn't the best Brazil side ever. And only against Haiti they scored 4 and 3 against Canada. So I struggle to see where they score more than 1 goal against a top nation. I think France is just too strong, so I'm going 3-1 France. Spain, Belgium. Belgium obviously say football, but Spain, not conceded a goal yet, is pretty professional, is played not well, but not particularly well, but professional enough to beat out Belgium. Norway, England will be a banger, but I think England come out of top. I think there will be a lot of goals. And Argentina, Switzerland, that's either going to be 2-0 Argentina with 2 individual moments of brilliance from probably Messi, or a 1-1 where Switzerland get a goal and Argentina struggle to break through. But I think the first one will happen. That was really my view on it. I may have not been able to say everything I wanted. Maybe after making this video, I will think I should have said this, I should have said that. But I've just shown you some of the points, talked about it, and why I don't think it's as bad. Of course, again, obviously Argentina overall, it's a bit shady, but I think people are being too overdramatic. I'm getting too tired now. It's a very easy finger to wise at this moment, and sometimes you just also gotta admit maybe it's not fair. Maybe they did it fairly this time. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your predictions, and I'll be making more videos like this, just talking about football, a little bit of waffling, and yeah, I think I'll see you as soon as possible. Bye bye.